Welcome back to another episode of Global Card Collectors. Thanks for tuning in. And this episode is going to be a Pokemon one because, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm here with my Pokemon expert friend, Keiran, and we just cannot believe how crazy the Pokemon market is at the moment. If you've seen things on YouTube, you'd see like a death battle for Pokemon cards almost. It's crazy. Anyway, Keiran, I just want, how you doing? How's things going? And please just share with us a couple of initial thoughts.
Well, like you said, crazy times in the Pokemon sphere at the moment. Demand is so high. There's been a surge in popularity, and it's all kind of coalesced with probably one of the most bonkers sets of cards that we've had for a long time, at least for the last 5 years. So it's been interesting to watch what's been going on over in America and even here in New Zealand. But me myself, I've actually kind of stepped back a little bit from collecting. Life's got busy with work and Christmas and all that. You know, things have been quite hectic. So I've kind of stepped back, and thankfully I have, because man, I'm not going in and shoulder barging my way past people to get some Prismatic Evolutions, that's for sure. But yeah, it's just it's interesting just what's happened, because you know the Pokemon Company has been ramping up production of cards over the years, and they've been promising fans that you know there'll be products available and everything, and at the moment there's just nothing available. There's nothing on store shelves. There's nothing at distribution. It's insane, and so we're basically at a point where there's no product. The demand's as high as it's ever been, and people are paying stupid money for things. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months, that's for sure. And it'll be real interesting to see where it goes from here. Yeah.
What I found interesting, because I basically have been in the space for about 6 to 8 months, and I remember you in our earlier episode, you kind of talked me through what you can do to start out a Pokemon collection, and so myself and Moana are just massive Pokemon card fans now. But one of the things that I noticed, and you basically brought it up early on, and in fact, both of these, I guess 2 of the 3 latest sets, you basically just tapped my shoulder and went, this one's going to be massive. And I think the first one was Surging Sparks. So I bought a couple of boxes from you, and when I bought them, they were at, I guess, was it MSRP? Was it the price that I bought them for, basically?
It's below MSRP, but that's pretty much the going rate for, well, at least that was the going rate for booster boxes back at the time. Yeah.
And that was only a few months ago, and now it's minimum doubled. I could probably double my money on those 2 boxes pretty easily.
Surging Sparks
over here,
price. I every now and again I flick out Collector on my phone, and I happened to actually look at that one quite recently in the last couple of days, and $440 a box now. So
it's more than double. Incredible! Wow.
And like you said, I mean, Surging Sparks only came out about three months ago, something like that, and in that space of time, it's more than doubled in price. And you know, for a modern set, that's just unreal. And even out of the gate, you know, within the first month, I think it got up to like $350 a box. And it's just continued. It's just held. I expected it to drop because I thought there'd be more stock come in, but we actually haven't been restocked with Surging Sparks. So it's only going to keep going up until they reprint it, which it must be coming soon. Yeah.
Wow. It's crazy. And I think the thing that you pointed out, so if we talk about 3 modern sets, I guess we could even go back to 151. And you could talk about the popularity of that and the nostalgia that brings to collectors. That set was kind of like the first time we ever saw videos of people in the US and Costco going crazy and wrestling each other on the ground to get boxes of Pokemon. It's like this really weird dystopian universe that
Well,
we're living in right now.
yeah, it's
It's
real
so
interesting
strange.
though. This has happened before. 2020, there was a massive
Wow.
boom in Pokemon. It's almost like every 5 years you kind of go through this like hype boom, and in 2020 it was sort of COVID times, and everyone expected a massive downturn, especially in luxury goods like TCGs, because obviously it's something that you can live without. But it was actually the opposite. Demand surged. I remember the Pokemon TCG group, the main one in New Zealand, the Facebook group. I remember joining that group, and I think there was just a tick over 2,000 members at the time. And when 2020 hit, it surged up to 5,000 members. I remember it doubled basically, and people were fighting each other for booster boxes of Vivid Voltage, which now is cheap as chips because they reprinted the crap out of it. Um, but people were fighting then, and the simple thing is that demand just doubled, and there just wasn't enough stock, and this is exactly what's happening now. It's funny, before this video, I actually looked at the TCG group and saw how many members there are. There's 10,000 members now, and that's only a couple of
Wow,
years.
that's
It's
a
gone
lot,
from
man.
like 2,000 to 5,000, then to 10,000. And that just shows you, how many active people there are. And I mean, these are people that are just, collectors and traders and all that kind of stuff. There'd be a heck of a lot more people out there that are buying this stuff to resell on Trade Me or Facebook Marketplace, that kind of thing, who don't even want to be part of these groups, because if they go in there, they're just called scalpers, so they avoid it. So, you know, if you think that the number of people who actively want to join a collectors Facebook group has doubled, that just shows you how popular it really is. So yeah, real interesting.
I, I did actually want to talk to you a little bit about that and about the what it's like in New Zealand at the moment as a I guess as a store,
Mm,
as a collector, as just a person who's into
mm,
Pokemon cards. I was talking to another person in the community who I every now and then
mm-hmm,
get cards off as well, and he basically said that those scalpers are
mm,
they're back
yeah,
in numbers because they understand that it's basically a way to double your money without
yeah.
trying anything. So any thoughts on what the New Zealand card collecting community is like at the moment with all these new sets
Yeah,
coming through?
emotions are running high. Let's just put it that way. There
Wow,
there's a lack of products available, and of course in these these collector groups, there's a lot of frustration because they want to open the products, they want to get the cards, um, they want to collect the cards, and there's these people that are coming in just to make money, like to scalp it, and like you said, it's a bunch of people who probably sell sneakers and all that other stuff that people scalp. And then as soon as Pokemon surges in popularity again, they say, "Oh well, let's get on this bandwagon and let's do that too." And they go out and they might clear out a store of all their 151 or the Prismatic, and then they come into these groups of of people that take collecting pretty seriously and try to sell stuff for 2, 3x, and they just get blasted. I mean, I hate to say it, but someone usually buys the stuff that they're selling, but not after they've
for
had a few
sure,
snarky comments from collectors. But I think yeah, the real feel at the moment in the collecting space in New Zealand is just a frustration. We just can't get enough product here, and I mean, as a store owner, it's frustrating. It really is because we have to buy stuff that doesn't sell, you know, and we're sitting on it, for we've had some stock that we've set on for a couple of years that just won't sell because it's not popular. And then when a really popular set comes along and we're like, cool, we can actually like make some money and really like distribute some stuff and get some new customers, we get heavily allocated and we can't get anything. And
yeah, that's
yeah,
so
yeah,
annoying,
I
man.
get it though. The distributor has to look after their biggest customers, who will be the big box stores or EB Games, warehouse farmers. Um, but yeah, us little stores tend to lose out a bit. especially when it comes to really popular sets like Prismatic Evolutions, which, I mean, you pretty much you'd be able to sell anything that you got in. There'd be no question about it. So whatever you buy, you can pretty much sell immediately, and it was a really big opportunity. And I guess we were quite disappointed with what we ended up getting, which was a far cry from what we ordered. So, and it's going to continue. I think the next set that's coming up in March, Journey Together, which is bringing trainer Pokemon back from. There used to be trainer Pokemon back in the day. I can't remember which era it was, and we haven't seen those for 20 years, and so now they're coming back, and the hype's back, and again, distributors in the US have run out of stock of this Journey Together set. So straight away,
Wow.
like us in Booster Games, we know that we can't put up pre-orders, otherwise, we're going to end up getting very little stock and disappointing a whole bunch of people. And I don't want to take money from people unless I have guaranteed stock. And so that's why we sort of have like a mandate at Booster Games that we'll wait for allocation of product before we actually put the product up on our website. And I know there's a lot of stores that don't do that. Yeah.
And so that makes, again, that adds to the frustration of the collector at
Yeah,
the
for
end of the
sure. And I
day.
mean, again, emotions running high because there was a bunch of cancelled orders. There were stores that shouldn't have been doing pre-orders. Because
I've seen
yeah,
the Facebook
yeah,
posts. It's
they should have
visceral,
known.
man.
These
It's a
these guys
rule.
should have known that this is going to be a really hot set. They should have known that in America stock was running out. As soon as you hear that, you know that you can't guarantee stock or guarantee numbers that you're going to get. So putting up pre-orders is a bit of a slap in the face to people, I think, because you take their money, and if you take people's money and then don't deliver, yeah, it's not great. I think there's been a few people in
Yeah.
the community that have ruined their reputations because of that. So yeah, it is literally like you just have to wait until you get your allocation email, and then you can sort of be like, okay, now we know where we stand. Because up until now, because we got really good numbers for Surging Sparks, which was really nice. And that was just before things started getting scarce. And that went really well. And then as soon as Prismatic came along, it was just nah. There's just no stock available. So.
It's interesting that we're talking about scarcity, and I try and compare it to the
Mm,
sports card market. I guess for people who are a little bit unclear on what Pokemon has been doing lately and why it's become so popular, when you think about that
mm,
151 set and how scarce it was
mm.
back then to even try and find it, it's as if that's their marketing plan. It's like, we're going to release a limited amount because we want people to go crazy for
Yeah.
our stuff. And then that's going to be able to, when we start releasing more, it's going to be a really good business plan. And I compare that to sports cards because right now I don't think that sports cards is dipped. I think the dip is kind of stopped, but it's just very,
Mm,
very flat. I don't think that consistency is necessarily great because right now, for example, I'm not going to buy modern cards because I know how
mm,
overprinted they are. So it's not about scarcity, it's about having way too much. It's
mm,
about excess. And so it's like, because of that, and we talked about this in early episodes too, because of that, let's call it almost
mm.
false rarity with
Yeah.
numbered cards. The value of a numbered card to me just does not feel as good because now every set has so many numbered
Yeah.
cards. So you're like, where's the actual scarcity of that? So in a way, I think Pokemon has done really well by limiting how much they're actually giving to the
Mm,
public to begin with, and but that seems to have just ramped up demand for the stuff. So 151 is still
mm.
hugely popular, and if you were to sell it here, there, or anywhere, I think those cards would sell
Oh
out
yeah.
almost immediately. Surging Sparks is crazy popular. And you told me about this beforehand when you said, well, you just got to look at these
Mm,
Pikachu cards. this set
Yeah.
is going to go
Yeah.
nuts. And it did. And I was like, man, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. And then the same with Prismatic. You're like, if you thought
Uh,
Surging Sparks was nuts, Prismatic is going to knock it out the park because of all of these
yeah.
ridiculously rare cards. So it's been a really interesting thing to watch. As a collector now, I'd say I am a Pokemon collector, even though I don't
I
have any
brought you over to
Pokemon
the
cards of
dark
my
side.
own.
Ha ha
I'm a
ha.
dad. Yeah. But it's so fascinating to watch how well these guys have planned
Mm.
this almost to say, let's just feed them a little bit and watch them go crazy over it. And it's just like you're feeding the masses this almost, this, I guess,
Mm.
this obsession. And because it's limited numbers, they go crazy. And then when you do a re-release, they still sell.
Yeah.
It's
I'll be
genius marketing.
honest. I've heard that theory before that Pokemon are just sort of drip feeding the market in order to like hype it up. I'll be honest. I actually don't think that that's the case. I think what's happened is that
Really?
they've been printing that they maybe might have anticipated like a 20% rise in popularity because of 151, and they sort of were like, okay, we're projecting this, we'll print more, so they are printing, enough, but then the demand doubles, and I just think that they
Wow.
haven't been able to keep up with the surging demand, and I guess for them they've got to, and they're really good at this, and I've watched quite a few videos about it. They are really good at controlling their market, because if you look at the likes of Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh, those ones, they just overprint and the price tanks, and they really don't know how
Yeah.
to control their market correctly. Pokemon does. They never overprint. They have done a couple of times in the past, but it's very rare that they'll ever say overprint and tank the market. Um, so I guess from their perspective, it's better to go under than over. So they might have said, okay, yeah, we're projecting like a 20 to 50% increase in sales when 151, hits because of the nostalgia factor and whatnot. And but actually it was 120%. And of course,
Wow.
and yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Like if you under, then it creates hype because it's a scarce, or it's seen to be a scarce item. But I think I've told you this before, how many billions of cards that they're printing, right? There's this graph I think that's on the internet where it basically just shows the amount of Pokemon cards that have been printed, and it's just this like up curve like this. And I think they said 3 billion cards or something. No, it was more than that. It was like 10 billion cards or something one year. So I honestly think that they are printing like a lot, but it's just for some reason there's just people coming out of the woodwork that want to collect Pokemon cards.
Yeah. And I think on top of that, like their initial starting price for boxes is
Yes, yeah,
reasonable. Whereas sports cards, even when
mm,
demand dipped, they're not changing
yeah,
prices. And so you're like, why would I buy a box of cards of these guys now when I can get a box from the 90s, which is half the price, and have that nostalgia and have that fun? I might not get a monster card, but I'm probably not going to get a monster card from that box anyway. So why would I even
yeah. And
try
I
it?
guess that's an interesting thing about,
Yeah, it's
say,
crazy.
vintage and modern, right? Because at the moment, another thing about the Pokemon market at the moment is it's just modern. Modern is on this uphill climb, but vintage is staying static. So it's a really interesting thing. In 2020, when there was that big boom, it was vintage that went up heaps, and modern stayed static. And yeah, so it's almost like flipped the other way. So now it's modern that's taking
Um,
off, and there's some collectors that say modern is trash, it's overprinted, it'll never see value, blah blah blah. And of course they've got a lot of vintage in their collection. But yeah, I'm a big advocate for modern. Um, I think that's where the real value is going to be in the future. Although, like I said, there's a lot of cards out there. But some cards are rarer than others, and especially some cards you can see the future value in it when other people can't. And I think that's the real secret to growing your collection, is if you can see value in something that no one else can, and you're one of the only people that actually collects that card or those cards, then in the future you're basically sitting pretty. So, um,
Yeah.
but it's not all about value. I mean, I think I've talked about this before. I collect some cards that people like really are basically worthless, or a couple of dollars a card or whatever. But I like the look of it. It's funny because there's actually a card that I really liked right off the bat. I think it was from Brilliant Stars. It was an art rare of Zekrom, and it's got his trainer flying on the back of him. And when I saw that card, I was like, wow, that's such a great card. Bought a bunch of copies of it. They were going for like $2 or $3 a piece. Um, and I've got a whole page of them in a binder back there. Thinking it's not about the value. I don't care. I really like the card. And now they're $30 a piece. Yeah.
Wow.
Just all of a sudden, people are like, actually, you know what? That card's really cool. I like that. And so, yeah, um, it's hard.
But I think that was maybe even your first piece of advice. You said to me, like, first, just
Yeah,
collect what you like, collect what you love, and go
exactly.
from there. And I think often that's the case as well. Some people might be set collectors. Not myself. I think I used to be a set collector, but now I'm just like, why would I want a card of this person when it's not something that I'm
Yeah,
really that into? So I've definitely gone with players and sports cards, and I'm trying to get Moana to also follow me and collect specific
yeah.
Pokemon, which she is, but she's dying to try to collect a set. So maybe we'll do one set just for the fun of it, and probably 151
Do you
makes
mean
the most
master
sense.
set?
But I think you're. Yeah, I don't know. Even just a
Just the base
maybe just
set?
a
Okay,
base
yeah,
set,
yeah,
just the
yeah.
stuff from there, yeah, in the
And,
middle, dude. Because the master set,
uh,
like you said before, I remember you saying this. You're like, it's such a it's a
yeah,
money pit. You put all your money in there, and then all of a sudden you just get a
yeah,
master set. Whereas if we just went for a base set, at least we can say we completed that,
yeah.
which would be
Because
pretty cool,
you
I
can
think.
actually buy like full sets, full master sets of for I don't know, it depends on the set, but way less than what you'd spend just trying to open the cards and find them, or even buying the singles. Yeah, master setting Pokemon is a world of pain. That's what I first started doing when I joined back in 2018, 2019. Yeah, and I quickly learned that, yeah, it's not worth it. But with a set like 151, I guess it's a bit special because there is that nostalgia factor of the first 151 Pokemon. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so I think you'll find that quite a few people are trying to complete that set, and that's potentially why there's so little product available. Um, yeah, but it's a
yeah,
cool set.
yeah. I think. What else did I want to ask you about this? Or there was a really good
Yeah,
question. It'll come back to me, but I do think that with 151 followed by Surging Sparks, followed by Prismatic, and then the last set with the trainers is called what
Journey
again in
Together.
English?
Yeah,
Journey Together. So I feel like they're just nailing it
yeah,
set after set
and
after set
then
with
after
this.
that,
I kind of appealing to different elements of a
yeah,
collector
and then
too. You know.
after this one, Journey Together, they're bringing a Rocket set out, and I don't know if you remember what Team Rocket is.
Oh, it is
So
Team Rocket.
there
Yeah.
was there
Wow.
was originally a Team Rocket set back in 2000, I think it was Rocket set, and then there was a
It was one of the first few
yeah,
Pokemon sets, if I
yeah, and it
remember
had Dark
correctly, right?
Pokemon, which was very
Hmm.
different, very cool.
That's right.
Just classic cards, Dark Pokemon, and then there was another set in 2004, I think, called Team Rocket Returns, and that was quite popular as well. And they haven't had a Rocket set since then. So it's been 20 years since they had a Rocket set, and they're going to bring one out now. So you think it's bad now? You wait till Rocket comes out. It's going to be bonkers again, especially if they bring back Dark Pokemon, because you can imagine, you know, Pokemon's like quite cheerful and colorful and everything. A lot of the cards are, and then if you bring something a little bit more dark into the TCG, I think it'll be very popular with a lot of people. So yeah, watch the space. Mm,
Yeah, wow, wow. I guess one thing I wanted to share with, I guess, viewers and listeners, people who aren't really clued into the New Zealand card collecting scene and what that looks like. It's definitely massive in the big cities. So Auckland, they go
mm,
nuts for the stuff. So they were when the big distributors had their sales, and it was the warehouse and farmers, and they were all selling these 151 cards. You couldn't find any in any store for love or money because they'd just been completely
mhm,
cleaned out in the cities. But what I'm starting to learn now is that it doesn't matter where you are, every farmers, every warehouse, every EB games across the country will get an allocation of some kind of Pokemon cards to put on shelves. So, as empty as the shelves are in Auckland, if you went to rural New Zealand, there's a much better chance that you could find some
mm,
cards like that. So, Keiran, what I would like to ask is, what's it like in New Zealand? Obviously, the big cities, Auckland, Wellington, possibly even Christchurch. Um, it seems really tough to find uh, cards just on like a department store like Farmers or the Warehouse.
mm.
What's it like? For example, I'm planning on contacting my brother who lives in a pretty remote region of New Zealand to see if he can pick me up a box or two when I can't find them online in New Zealand. So, what
Yeah.
what what New Zealanders are doing when they can't find stock?
Yeah, they get creative like that. I guess you end up sort of going a little bit off the beaten path. If you know that there's a big box retailer like the Warehouse or Farmers in a place where there's not a lot of people, yeah, you got a much better chance because Auckland Central, Wellington, Christchurch, just any of the cities, you basically uh, you know you can't find much at all. So
Nothing.
yeah, you're onto a good thing there. I actually, funnily enough, travel a bit for my job, and I do go to some remote places, and do actually find some stuff that I don't regularly find here in Wellington. One that springs to mind is I travelled to Taranaki, which is on the west coast of New Zealand, the North Island, and I went into a farmer's there, no, sorry, a warehouse, and they still had Lost Origin, which is a really in high demand set. And Yeah, I got it for regular retail price when it was, the actual price, market price was much higher. So I think, yeah, you do what you can to find stock anywhere you can. Yeah, and I guess yeah, going to like a rural or remote place where there's a big box retailer would be the way to go, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got my mum also lives in a pretty remote part of New Zealand, so it'll be asking my brother, asking my mum, my dad to a degree too, because he's just outside the Auckland Central region.
Yeah.
And the last couple of times we've been there, we've been pretty lucky with EB Games and the warehouse. So we'll ask all three of them and see what we can come up with. If one of them hits, it's perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, all you really want is a couple of ETBs of Prismatic.
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's right.
that's all you need. But at the moment, that's asking too much for some places. So,
Yeah,
mm.
for sure.
So what
Hey,
about
I want
Turkey? Can you find anything there, or is it pretty hard?
So I think I shared a couple of prices with you before
Yeah,
about how
yeah, you
much
did.
this
Yeah.
stuff is worth. It is nuts. And again, it's because there is basically no stock in the country. And I've worked it out since we've been here. The big reason why everything is at least 2x is because anything that's imported into Turkey, if you go through customs, you have to pay 100% tax. So you
Whoa.
can so you can imagine an ETB which is selling for $90 will sell for $180. It's crazy.
Jeez.
So
Far out.
the yeah, and there's a decent collecting community here too. Obviously, with all of these new sets coming out, the hype is real because I bought over two Surging Sparks ETBs, which I found at the warehouse,
Hmm.
and I just said, "Look, I've just put these cards over into town." I must have got about 30 messages on Facebook, just like, "How much are they? How much are they? Are you selling them? How much?" And I'm like, "Holy moly!" So there's a
Sounds
real
like a
market here
business
for that kind of thing.
opportunity.
Well, we'll see what we can do. I mean, if I'm ever gonna be able to do that, what I'll probably do is for every box that I want to rip, I'll probably buy a second box, sell that one to pay off the box that I am opening. So
That's
that's the
smart.
idea behind it, at least. And at the same time, like you're probably selling it to them for less. You're selling it to them for less than what they can buy living here. And obviously, this
Mm,
is, I feel like this market here is quite a closed market. It's really hard to get into because you'll find that people who are coming from abroad just can't get in.
mm,
And often, if you were to, let's say, for example, I were to ask for cards, there's a good chance that they could just get lost in the mail too. So there's a lot of
yeah,
risk that comes with it. But at the
yeah,
same time, because it's a closed market, you can almost set your own price. But at the same time, I'm like, just make it a fair price and get the sale through and go from there. And
mm,
if they're willing to pay 3x, giving them 2x is good because at the end of the day, like the ETBs that I brought over took up a lot of space in my suitcases,
yeah.
took
They
up
would.
weight in my suitcases. Yeah,
Yeah.
it took up weight in my suitcases too. Not that much weight, but enough. Whereas I could have bought a couple of pairs of shoes over that kind of thing. So
Mm,
it was really I remember my wife just weighing and reweighing our our suitcases just to get over because it was really important what kind of stuff we brought back. So there'll be some value in that, and at the same time, I haven't told many people this, but we are going to be, and in fact, probably by the time this episode airs, I'll be in my own card show. So we have a little trade day that we've set up. Moana's going to
hey,
sell some of so
that's
Moana's going to
awesome,
sell
man.
some of her cards. Yeah,
Cool.
it's been a bit of work. It's tough here because my Turkish is not the best, but I do have some Turkish collectors who are good friends of mine, so they've helped with that sort of thing, and so is my wife, and so we're kind of ready to go, man. Like we found a venue.
Awesome.
I found a venue for us. We've started advertising. We've made the date. It's all ready to go. So basically, on the 2nd of February will be
Yeah.
our big trade day, and we'll see how it goes. I'm really worried that it's going to be too busy. It could
Oh,
be empty,
yeah,
but I have a
yeah.
feeling like it's just going to be like it's going to be full of people because if I
That's a
start
good problem to
advertising that
have,
I've
man.
got, yeah, I think so. Then we can find a bigger venue next time, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm planning on selling some of those ETBs. I was like, should I just sell them on Facebook Marketplace? And I'm like, no, I want to do it in person. You want to
Yeah.
kind of meet the person face to face and almost reward them for coming out and, and traveling halfway
Absolutely.
across the city to get the card. So that'll be the plan. I've only got a couple of Pokemon products to sell, but I think they'll sell pretty quickly.
My favorite part of being a vendor and selling boxes to people is if they open them after they've bought them,
Yeah.
like in front of me. I've actually started taking like a mat to
Oh,
our
cool.
yeah, so that you put it out so that's kind of like an invitation for the person to, if they buy a couple of packs, to open them in
Yeah.
front of you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, obviously, sometimes it backfires and people open products and they get nothing, but I mean, that's all part of it. So yeah, you might want to do that. Take a little card mat down there and just, if you do sell something to someone, say, hey, do you want to open it or yeah,
All right,
get a
I'll
bit
give
of
it a
enjoyment out
crack.
of it.
I'll give it a crack.
Yeah,
Yeah. We've got a little Pokemon mat, of course,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll take that out. We can set up on the table, and if you want to open, you can open. That's a great idea.
Yeah, no, and congrats, man. That's awesome. I can imagine, organizing something like that, especially when you already have a full-time job, is pretty hard. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's we'll see how we do. We're just giving it a go. We want to make connections in the community and build it, and hopefully build up to one of these bigger shows. You never know. Like I think starting small here is definitely smart because one, I want to get a feel for the market, see what it's like, and two, I've never done it before. But I could do it in New Zealand pretty comfortably, I think. But to do
Mm,
it here in Turkey with the Turkish community, you need
mm,
to have a couple done first before you can give it a good go because you don't know if it's going to work out or what issues you might come up against. So that's why we're starting small with a little trade day. Definitely got inspired from New Zealand. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. So
yeah.
yeah, we'll see how
You
we do, I guess.
you said that there's a lot of like people in Turkey that collect, and I remember you saying at one point that the the stores are open till really late because people are always in them, eh? Yeah,
That's right.
which is,
Yeah,
I guess that's a bit different to here, right? You have populous, stores, but it's not like they'll be open late at night with people going in and out. But I guess it's different
yeah.
culture, different way of doing things. But yeah, I guess if you've got a really strong like community, like a lot of demand, I imagine that if you decided to organize some kind of event, there'd be a lot of interest. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I know that the Istanbul Card Show that was put on, I think it was like August last year, was
Mm,
super popular. Like they had that problem of, oh man, we've got way too many people in there. What are we going to do? So I'm pretty sure the next iteration of that show is going to be massive, and they ran
yeah.
it really well. But they didn't have. I think they just didn't have the interest in the sports cards, and that's what
Right.
I would probably bring to a different card show. I'd be like, we have to have TCGs in Pokemon. You have to because that's what people want. They'll want One Piece as well and other things.
Mm,
But the sports cards were kind of untouched, and I think that there's a market for the football cards at least, and then maybe some basketball on top, which will be fun. And it's just cool to do, man. And
yeah.
I have a really small group of friends here, like 3 or 4 of us. We've made a collective group, and those are the guys that I approached, and I said, look, I found the venue. Shall we run a show? We talked it over drinks and traded some cards and had a chat. It was really cool. So
Cool,
I'm
man.
looking forward to
It's awesome.
doing like if this month's one works well, then hopefully we'll be able to get the same venue and run the same thing next month and the month after. Because as you and I talked about before, I definitely want to consolidate my cards. I've got just too much in
Too
volume,
much. Yeah.
and so just to try and pare that down and have the few cards that I really want is where I'm headed. I think, which is cool.
Good idea. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm really surprised about that 100% tax on imports. Is that all imported goods, like everything?
All imported goods, every single
Wow.
thing. I think Europe might be less, but it's still a
Mm.
crazy high number.
So
So
do they? So you'd have to declare the value of the thing that you're importing, then, and then they chuck
mhm.
the tax on top of that.
Yeah, because
Uh,
they're supposedly trying to protect the local market. For example, we wanted to make an order on Temu, so
yeah.
the maximum order that you can make on Temu, because they have limits and caps on how much you can import as well.
Jeez,
So
man,
I
really
think I
controlled,
think
eh?
that they kind of have to in some ways. Otherwise, they want the tax because they need the money themselves,
Yeah.
and then they want to make sure that their sellers are able to be competitive. But right now, like compared to what it used to be, compared to what it was like when you were here, it's just a very different price market. And I
Yeah.
haven't been able to wrap my head around it because all of the stuff that they import is really expensive because their currency is so weak. And then on
Mm,
top of that, they have to pay tax and then they have to have a margin where they earn money too. So the average cost of things has jumped up a whole bunch. And I can't really find anywhere where I'm getting things cheaper here than abroad. It's almost
yeah.
worth going overseas, going to somewhere in Europe to buy some things that I might need, maybe a new pair of shoes, and then
Mm,
bring them back here. Because the same pair of shoes here, if you were to buy it in Europe, is minimum 50% less. It's
wow,
crazy. Yeah,
that's insane.
yeah, it's
You
nuts, man.
you sort of wonder how the local businesses, that are selling imported goods survive.
No idea.
Yeah.
I've got no idea about that. I've got no idea about how the locals are able to pay for everything because their currency is
Yeah.
so weak. It's
Yeah.
tough, mate.
I
Yeah.
bet. Yeah.
Hey, let's switch gears back to Pokemon cards, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's all of these new sets. 151, tough to find, still quite expensive. Surging Sparks, also tough to find, also very expensive. Prismatic, like impossible to find,
Yeah.
really, really expensive. Um, are there any areas in the Pokemon, I guess, buying or any sort of areas where you would think would be a good place to start looking into in the Pokemon market right now?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's still things available. It's not all doom and gloom. The set before Surging Sparks is called Stellar Crown. There's
Yeah,
still plenty of that around. And there's some really good cards in that. I think the Bulbasaur art rare. that
That's right.
Moana really liked.
There's
Also,
there's
there's
the
the
EV too,
Squirtle.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah. There's an
Squirtle.
Eevee in. Oh no, that's Twilight Masquerade.
Twilight Masquerade. That's a nice
Yeah,
set
yeah.
too.
Twilight Masquerade is it's becoming more scarce, but there's still a little bit of that knocking around. So, you know, Stellar Crown, great, like actually quite a good set. You can still get it at regular retail price, so you know you just have to not FOMO into the really popular stuff at the time. Don't overpay for things like Prismatic or Surging Sparks, or when Journey Together gets here, that one. Just hold off. I mean, there's going to be a huge reprint of all these sets. So it's just kind of like a bit of a waiting game. But if you can't wait, I'd suggest Stellar Crown. Shrouded Fable is still around, which is people don't like Shrouded Fable because it doesn't have like some really big chase cards. There are a couple of nice art rares in it, but other than that, the SIRs or the special illustration rares in it aren't that good. Um, but the thing about Shrouded Fable, and I think I made a video on my YouTube channel about this, is it's a special set. So every now and again, there's main sets like Twilight Masquerade, Stellar Crown, um, Surging Sparks, and then you get a special set, which Prismatic Evolutions is. But Shrouded Fable was the one before that, and it's just sitting on shelves. No one's buying it. Um, they're going to go on fire sale, basically. I reckon you'll be able to find ETBs for less than $100 New Zealand. Um,
I already bought one for less than $100 in New Zealand
did you?
before we left.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, yeah.
It was 70
And
$75, I want to say.
yep. 75. That's a deal, mate. It's a real deal. So the thing about Shrouded Fable is that it's so unpopular that I honestly think that this will be a set that Pokemon won't reprint. So I don't know how much they originally printed of it, but there will never be a reprint. And what you look at the history of Pokemon cards and sets that have done really well, and every single time a set doesn't get reprinted, regardless of whether it's a good set or a bad set, you always get a premium. One that really springs to mind is Rebel Clash back in Sword and Shield. It was touted as the worst set of Sword and Shield. Booster boxes are $400. And the reason why that is because it never got reprinted.
No reprints.
Yep, yep, because nobody liked it. So there is something in that if you're collecting something that no one else likes or no one likes, eventually it holds value because when all said and done in a couple of years' time, there'll be none of it out there. And if you've got that stuff, people are going to say, well, hey, it's rare now, it's got value. So yep, I'd suggest if you can find Shrouded Fable for $75 in ETB like you did, I'd pick a couple up. It's worth the punt. Um, Also to open as well, quite nice. A couple of other sort of long-term things that I've been thinking of is there's this box called the Charizard Super Premium Collection. You might
Yep.
know which one I'm talking about. In fact, I've
Yep.
actually got one sitting here. This is something I prepared earlier.
Nice. With the
So
actual model of the Charizard in it, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's the model of the Charizard there, right? So these things, like you can see, they're huge. Um, the regular retail price of that is $190 or something.
All
Um,
right.
but they're just sitting on shelves. No one wants them. And I reckon in the next couple of months, because they're so big and there's so much stock of it, I think you'll be able to find those things for close to $100. And at that price point, I think it's definitely worth getting one because, well, first of all, it's Charizard. Charizard's always popular. It'll always hold
Yep.
value. And Pokemon doesn't do big figurines like that very often. It's very rare that they do them. So I think that they'll go on fire sale for about $100. It's worth picking up a couple, and 4 years down the track, I think they're going to be really valuable. Another thing that if you can't afford Prismatic Evolutions is Terrestrial Festival, which
Yeah.
is the Japanese version of Prismatic Evolutions. Now, there's not a lot of this stock left, and it's overpriced at the moment. So I think a booster box is going for about $190 now. There's only 10 packs in here, so it's quite expensive. I bought this for $100. This was back when there was a lot of stock, and so the price was lower. This is going to get restocked in the next couple of months in Japan. So the price is going to go back down. If you can get a couple of boxes of this for close to $100 to $120, do it. Pick it up. It's a great set. I actually opened this up on my channel a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, all of the cards from Prismatic Evolutions are in here. It's just the Japanese cards. In fact, I actually prefer the Japanese cards, to be honest.
The
The
quality is
quality's
better
better.
generally, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The texture's better as well. The texture on the ultra rares are way better as well. So yeah, there's going to be opportunities to pick up stuff. You just have to kind of wait for prices to go down. There's also a couple of like alternate art cards and art rares that are cheap. I've got a couple of examples, like for alternative arts from Sword and Shield. There's in what was it called? Silver Tempest. There's alternate art unknown. That's only like $40 at the moment, and those cards are so rare. They're so rare. I think they're one in every like 100 booster packs or something. And for $40, that's a really good, and it's a good looking card too. Also, the Beedrill V from what's that called? I can't, something Radiance. Fake fan. It was a one of the sets around that era, and the Beedrill V, beautiful looking card, and it's only $60. I think that's a real good punt for like a card that'll go up in value big time. Um, like I said, like art rares. There's a pincer from Twilight Masquerade that looks really good. It's only $10 at the moment. Um, there's the Tatsugiri from Twilight Masquerade. That's only $20. Those two cards I think have really good long-term potential. There's definitely hidden gems out there. You just have to like see the value in them. Like I was talking about before, is seeing value in things that no one else sees. Um, and even Prismatic Evolutions, the SIRs that aren't popular, like the that aren't the evolutions, so like the Roaring Moon or the Iron Valiant SIRs, those are eventually going to tank in value. At the moment, they're expensive because we're so close to release, and hype's really big. But eventually those will be probably $30 cards. And at that point, at that price point, it's definitely worth picking those up because you know they're rare cards, they're good-looking cards, and they will be in demand in the future. So, like I said, there are opportunities out there for to create some value, or to still open product and not have to pay an arm and a leg to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about seeing the value in that sense. There are obviously the chase cards. So, for example, the set that I probably know the best is 151.
Yeah.
And you have that Charizard card, which is probably the big chase card in that set, right?
Hmm.
What do you think the other big chase cards in that set are? Because there's one card in that set that we pulled, and I'm like, man, this card looks really good live. And
Mm.
that's the Poliwhirl one. I don't know if you remember the
Yeah.
Poliwhirl card.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
texture on that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And especially with the way that the card kind of shimmers and shines, and you've
Yeah.
got that like reflection on the water below the Poliwhirl. I was like, man, this is cool. This is a really good
Yeah.
looking card. I
That
think
is
that
a
feels undervalued to me too.
criminally underrated, that card. Like the
Yeah.
artwork is phenomenal. I think like I was gonna say either the Poliwhirl or there's a Psyduck card, and he's kind of like
Okay.
trundling down the steps,
Ah,
by
yeah,
like
that's a
a
cool
temple
looking
or
one too.
something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally underrated card. I don't know how much. I don't know what the value of it is at the moment, but there's a lot of Psyduck fans out there. But I mean, it's a
Yep.
great looking card, and I think you can pick it up for dollars.
Wow.
Single digit dollars. What else is there in that set? There are. I mean, there's the obvious like Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
Charmander, Squirtle, that kind of thing. But I mean, everyone's collecting those. So yeah, 151. I reckon that Poliwhirl definitely has legs to be really popular in the future.
Hmm.
The Psyduck. What else was there? I'm struggling to think actually what other art rares there are in there, but there's some really good ones, and
Even the
ones that
Ninetales one is
aren't
not bad.
popular.
Like the EX Ninetales is nice, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
there's
think
some fun
actually
ones.
there's a Ninetales art rare from Obsidian Flames, which is another set that nobody really liked, and that's a really good looking card. And in fact, I think it's probably the most popular card out of that set, apart from the Charizard. Um, yeah, it's it is one of those things where if you can see if a card has eye appeal like that Poliwhirl,
Yeah.
because it's not a really popular Pokemon at first, people won't really see the value in it, but eventually
Hmm.
they do. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. In terms of like a card from 151 that is really underrated at the moment.
So you would recommend, for example, if you had an ETB just looking through that set list and saying this one looks like it could be a really good card down the line, and
Yep.
it might be undervalued. Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with you. I
absolutely.
definitely,
And
and
you can go
especially when you
on
see them in person too.
yeah, and you can go on TCG Player and see what the values are at the time and how it's tracking. And oftentimes you can see it when a card is undervalued because it bottoms out and then it might be on like a slight uptick. And if you can buy the card at that point before it really takes off, and unfortunately at the moment, I don't know if you've looked at card prices, but singles are taking off at the moment. Like Crown Zenith is going absolutely nuts, which was a really good set, the last set of Sword and Shield era, and it almost seems like everything is going up at the moment.
It kind of makes sense, though, right? Like you can't find cards, you can't find
Yeah,
packs. You're going to go to singles, which is
absolutely.
good for the
Yeah.
market. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it might actually get me to sell some stuff rather than hoarding all my singles. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad
yeah.
idea. All right, buddy. Is there anything else you want to share before we take off?
Not really. I guess just a take-home message for all those people that are feeling a little bit hard done by with Prismatic, and just what's going on in the Pokemon market at the moment. There will be a correction. You just have to be patient. I mean, I know, you want the product now, you want to open the cards now because there's a lot of hype and a lot of, you know, uh, a lot of anticipation and anxiousness. But, you know, you're not doing anyone a service by paying a scalper three times the price,
Yeah.
That's why scalpers exist, is because people FOMO into things. So I guess my take-home message to people is just to be patient. Pokemon has already put out a notice saying that they are going to reprint Prismatic a lot. In fact, they're going to reprint pretty much every set from last year, and so soon there will be stock available. And they know what they're doing. They know that they have to print more, and I have no doubt in my mind that come you know middle of the year there'll be Prismatic products sitting on shelves.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That sounds promising, man. That sounds really
Yep.
promising.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we've been here before in 2020, and then they printed a lot of cards and met demand, and everything was great again.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's promising for the sports car collector too, because right now I don't think we've come close to the hype and the energy and just the excitement in that market. Even
Mm.
when Banyama came into the market, did you know that he is the after one season he was the 10th most graded card of all time.
Wow. Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
that's how many of his cards are in the market.
Yeah.
So I think there will be market correction. The reason why sports cards haven't had a correction in the market lately is because they have exclusive rights. So when you, for example, let's say you want to have the NBA, you have to sign the NBA, the league, and the NBA Players Association, which was done by Panini.
Mm.
They're going to lose their rights, I think, at the end of next season. So because they're trying to make hay while the sun shines, they're just overprinting everything. So there's this
Wow. Yeah.
massive bubble of overprinted cards. And then hopefully, now that Topps will have it, they will pare things down a little bit,
Yeah.
and we can get some more excitement in the hobby, because right now it's just like, as we talked about earlier, false rarity, too many products sitting on shelves, and it just doesn't, and the prices haven't changed. So why would you
Yeah.
even bother? So I've been looking at singles and just trying to consolidate. That's my plan, at least. So that's where we're going to leave the episode. We had a few technical difficulties after this point, but we hope you join in for our next episode. 15 minutes seems long enough anyway. So if you have any questions about Pokemon cards, you can contact myself or Keiran. You can find his YouTube channel at Shiny Kiwi TCG. All right, team. Until next time.